Patrick Denny, our secretary, has introduction, which he's called Memories of Life in Colchester in the early 1900s. And of course, one of the things about Colchester Record is that because we have been recording local people for rather a long time, we do have people who actually remember not only the end of Queen Victoria's reign, but an awful lot about Edward in Colchester. So we look forward to this. Ladies and gentlemen, Patrick Denny.
Thank you, Andrew. Yes, as Andrew's said, we decided we're going to dip into the archive this evening, and we're going to hear a little bit about one of our early interviews, and I'll introduce her to you in a moment. But the archive is huge. We've interviewed well in excess of 1,500 individuals who between them have recorded, upwards of 3,500 hours of recording. So it's a huge archive. And so we're just going to share really a few minutes tonight from one of our early ones. So I'm going to see if I can just share the screen to start. And this is Margaret Golby. Now, Margaret, as you can see on the screen, was born on Boxing Day 1901, and I interviewed her in May 1991. And she was coming up for 90 at the time, and she actually lived on till she was 97. So she died in 1998, but her childhood was spent before the First World War, of course, and she went to school, and during the First World War she was working. I'm going to start off by just reading one or two little snippets that she told me before we actually listened to some of her recording itself. And the reason why, I remember Margaret very well, and recalling all these memories, she would all of a sudden burst out in raucous laughter, and she almost rolling off her chair. And I remember thinking, oh, better go steady, I don't want her to have an accident. And of course, some of the good bits, you can't really hear much because she's laughing so much. But I'll just read a little bit just by way of an introduction. She said that her mother and father bought their house in Canterbury Road, number 105 Canterbury Road, when it was new. And, typical house for the area, 3 bedrooms, she said, a nice stairway, a front room, a living room, a kitchen, and an outside toilet. And she said they paid £5 a week rent for that. Now, she had a bit of a tragedy happen because her father died, and she'll talk about that in a moment, when she was about 9. And her parents had 8 children altogether. And after the father died, there were still 5 of them living at home. And of course, mother had to work to take in washing to look after the family. And she said that sometimes mum would be up at 2 o'clock in the morning trying to finish all this washing. She said she used to take washing in, and us kids used to have to go and get it from up Creffield Road way. Me and my younger sister Con used to have to walk all the way carrying this basket full of washing through the barracks and across the Abbey Fields. We had gas lighting downstairs and used candles to go to bed. I remember once when mum did some washing for the people who kept the shop at the bottom of Canterbury Road, and to her annoyance, the man had brought the empty basket back on a Sunday morning. Well, I saw my mum come through the front door. I expect she'd got her madness up, and she threw this basket across the table and hit this hanging gas mantle. She said it went all over the show. Oh dear, I can see that now. We were just sitting down to have our breakfast, and this mantle was coming down all over the place. After that, she moved it to the side wall. That was one of her laughter sessions, which you wouldn't understand. She also spoke about another loving memory about her mother used to sweep her own chimney to save money. She said there used to be a chimney sweep who lived opposite who would charge about 3p to sweep the chimney, but mother used to do her own. She would wait until she had a fire going in the grate and then light a lump of newspaper and put it up the chimney. And then be soot coming down, smoke coming out the top. And she'd say, I hope old Ramplin, the sweep, is looking. It used to tickle her pink to think that he could look and see what she was doing. Oh, she was a character, wasn't my mother? She really was. And finally, you know, standard for the day at the houses. There was no bathroom in the house. Every week my mother would light the copper to heat the water to give us a bath. I had 5 children still living at home after Dad died, and Mother would bath us kids in the kitchen in a tin bath. I had to sleep with my 2 sisters, and my 2 brothers slept in another room while Mother had the front room. We had an outside toilet, and this is what I thought was interesting. And just round the corner from the toilet, there was a little sheltered area where we used to throw all our rubbish. The dustman used to shovel it up in a sack and put it on a horse and cart. Can you imagine that happening today? Apparently the dustman used to have to walk right down the passage between the houses, right round the back, shovel up all their rubbish, which had just been thrown in a corner, take it all back, and then presumably do that to every single house. But look, let's have a listen, shall we, to some of Margaret's memories in her own words. This is part of the interview here.
Could we start by you telling me your full name, please?
It's just Margaret Golby.
And do you mind me asking how old you are and your date of birth?
I was born on Boxing Day, so it's the 12th month, 1901.
So that makes you how old now?
89. I'll be 90 if I live till Christmas.
Well, you're looking very well, as I said earlier.
I can't believe it.
What was your father's name, his Christian
Herbert.
name? And his surname, your maiden name?
French.
Herbert French.
Mm-hmm.
Now, was he a local man? Was he born in Colchester?
No, he came from Colchester.
Now, what do you know about him? What did he do for a living?
Worked at Paxman's.
He was at Paxman's?
Yes.
And what did he do there?
Well, just general. He wasn't trained or anything. He just did engineering work of some sort.
And did he... Now, he died, as you were telling me earlier. Well, perhaps you could just tell me that again. He died at work, didn't he, I believe?
Well, he died in the hospital, but he was killed at work, really.
So can you just tell me what happened again?
Yes. They were trying a new traction engine out, and they'd got a trailer behind attached to it. Well, my father had got to go across the yard to the office to pick up his money, because they didn't pay him till Saturday dinner time. And as he went between the two, the chap started the traction engine up, and the trailer knocked my father down and broke his bike, and he was on his bike, and that's how he came to be killed. And my mother was cooking his favourite dinner, and I looked out the door and I said, "Here come Dad, Mum." She looked out, she said, "That ain't your father." That was his mate, brought his bike home and told Mother what had happened. Of course, she dropped everything. I don't know what happened with the dinner. And she went to the hospital and they just said Liz. And when she come back, the neighbours next door had given me and Stan, we were sitting on the front doorstep waiting for Mum to come home. We didn't realise what had happened to Father. But me and Hannah were the last ones to see him, because we had to go down the passage and round the house. And Hannah wanted to, they used to give her a ride on the bike round the passage, and I had to go with her to bring her back. And as he went round the corner of Bourne Road, they turned and waved to us 2 kids, and we were the last ones to see him alive.
And that was 1914? No,
1910.
1910.
And the neighbour next door, they took pity on us 2 kids, I expect, and they gave us a cot. I think he had threepence and I had threepence. And we thought we were going to keep my mother for life on that when she come back.
Did your mother get any compensation?
I told her no.
Nothing at all?
Nothing at all. Not a penny. And she fought for 6 months for it. I tell you, they turned it down. She never got a... Mother had an insurance man. She used to pay twopence for me in the Prudential Insurance Company she belonged to. How long she belonged to it, I don't know. Because when I got married, Mother said, "Are you going to keep the insurance up?" I said, "No, I'm not." I said, "I'm not having anything to do with any insurance companies." "Oh, well, then," she said, "I shall stop paying for you." Twopence a week she paid.
Do you ever remember the doctor coming to the house?
Yes. did.
And when you was at home as well, when you was with your mother and father, who was the family doctor?
Dr. Wirtz.
And where was his surgery?
Oh, his was in, can't remember the name of it, it may not be here now.
Did you ever...
But he had a horse and cart, a
Did he?
cabby thing, yes.
He would come
No
on that
cars,
to
because
his
my young
surgery?
sister Hannah, she had everything under the sun. She had their measles 3 times, and mother she had her tonsils out at home. The doctor came there and did it, and mother had to clear the bedroom and scrub the table, and everything was put out of the room and everything, and she had her tonsils done at home.
Did you
By
really?
Dr. Wirtz, yes.
Can you remember that?
Yes,
So
I can remember that.
Did everything go well? Or?
Yes.
And your mother had to sort of act as a nurse, or sort of...
Well, yes,
Watch out
yes.
for him.
Yes, she looked after her. Tell you, there wasn't much my mother couldn't turn her hand to do. I think Canterbury Road School was built about 1900 and 1901, somewhere about the time I was born.
Was it a very big school? I mean, how many children do you think would
Oh,
be
there was a big school.
Over 100?
Oh, yes.
And
There was 3 playgrounds.
was it a mixed school? Were the boys
Yes.
and girls mixed all together?
Yeah.
And what can you remember about lessons? What sort of lessons did you have?
Well, all sorts. Arithmetic and I always remember one teacher, we used to call him old Daddy Saw. His name was Mr. Saw, old Daddy Saw. He come round one day and I was sitting on the edge of the desk, and he come round and he tapped me on the top of the head. He said, "You sit straight." He said, "What are you sitting like that for?" I said, "Because that gal's got nits in her hair."
What did he say to
Because
that?
my mother was always on the lookout for that sort of thing, you know.
Was that much of a problem?
Yes, it was, in those days. And she really had got nits in her hair. Well, if I'd have gone home with them in my hair, my mother'd have been upset. And when we had a Sunday school treat, do you know where we went? A coal cart was scrubbed out, and us kids, there was boards that put across, and we sat on these boards, and they took us to the park.
Did they really?
That was our Sunday school treat.
Who was the Coleman?
Oh, any Coleman.
Yeah.
Any Coleman.
They take on a horse and cart up to the...
Up to the church hall.
And you went over the park?
Yeah, it brought us up to the Castle Park. And the old trams.
Yeah.
I had my photo taken with the first one that came up to the wreck. It never went no further than the wreck hotel. And the first one that came up there, I was with my little pal, boyfriend of mine I was always pally with, who lived not far from me in the road. Billy Woods, his name was. We'd been on the wreck, and they were going to take a photograph of this tram, and I'd got this red frock on with the black frill. I wish I'd got the picture of it now, because I had a photo of it. I'd love you to see it. And I said to them, "Come on, they're going to take the photo of the tram. Let's go and have our picture taken." And we got taken. We were standing in the middle of the road.
Goodness.
And the tram and the old hotel, the wreck hotel. I can see it now, with my old red frock with a black frill on it. When I was 14, my sister Lil wanted some help in her house because the master of the house was a captain on a boat, and he was coming home from Australia, and they wanted a little extra help in the house. Oh dear. I was 14 that Christmas, and she wrote and asked Mother if she'd let me go up there to help her.
This was in Surrey?
Yes. So I was bundled off. I went all by myself. I didn't know anything about the trains or nothing else. They saw me off, I suppose, at North Station. And I can see myself now. There was a lot of soldiers in the train, And if my sister Lil-Anne had been at Liverpool Street, I don't know what would be the come of me, because nobody to make me otherwise.
But she was during the First World War.
Yes. So I went and I stayed with Lil for 3 months, and the master went back to his ship. So the missus said to Lil, Margaret will have to go home. Well, they called me Daisy at the time. So she said, unless you find her a job round here somewhere. Well, she found me a job. And what a job. I went to this house. Do you know how long I stayed there? Less than 24 hours.
Did you really?
There was a woman living alone, and apparently she used to go to communion service, I think nearly every day anyway. She went and I had the breakfast ready when she'd come back. I thought myself, and I'd got a light of fire with wood that was all green and I couldn't get the thing to burn. I thought myself, I've had enough of this. So I said to her, I said, can I go out this afternoon, please? Oh, no, you only have 1 half day a week. I said, but I must go. I said, I've left something at my sister's that I want. Oh, well, you can go as far as there, which was only a few doors away. So I went back to Lil. She said, what are you doing out this afternoon? I said, I don't know about being out this afternoon. I said, I'm never going back. She said, you'll have to. I said, I shall not. I said, I'm not going back there, I said, where that old woman is. I said, I never had a wink of sleep last night or anything else. So she said, well, I don't know what you're going to do then. So, of course, she told her missus about it. So she said, well, the only conclusion I can think of, Lily, she said, is we'll have to take her home. I haven't got no money. You've got about £0.50 a week. In those days, she only got about 5 bob. So I hadn't got any railway fare. So the next day, she brought me home. She wouldn't speak a word to me all the way home. She was so cross with me,
This is your sister?
My sister, Lil.
Right.
She had to pay me fare home. Of course, Mother didn't know we were coming. So when we got home, Mother said to me, well, what do you think you're going to do if you're not going to service? I said, I know what I'm not going to do. I said, I'm not going into service. Well, my brother was courting this young lady, and she worked on Harlington's. And she was up at Mother's one day, and she said, do you think you'd like to come on Harlington's with me? I said, yes, I would. I'd like that. And I went on Harlington's.
How did you get a job? Do you have to go and see somebody for an interview, or?
I can't remember that.
No.
I must have done, I suppose, because the old boy who used to come down from London, who, one of the Harlington's brothers, there was 3 brothers, and I went on Harlington's, and Ethel, that's her name, she taught me for a month to do what I was going to do, you see, on the machine, which was putting patch pockets onto jackets that were made to go abroad for the hot weather, see? And she taught me that for a month.
And then you went on your own?
Then I went on my own.
Did you pick it up easy enough?
Well, I thought I did, but the first bundle, because you had to take it up to the forewoman, you see, for her to pass it. And when I took my first bundle up to her, she said, I don't think much of your work.
Did she?
Yes.
What was wrong with it?
Well, it wasn't good enough in her estimation, I suppose. And another instance of it was one day when I was older and on my own, because you had to go up to the bench where she was, the old forewoman, and collect a bundle of work, you see. Well, one day I was about 16 or 17, I suppose, then. She gave me a bundle of work, which was leather jackets, and I'd got to put the patch pockets on them. And there was only that one bundle, and Of course, she told you the price of what they'd be when you'd done them. So I said to her, I said, I'm not going to do them, I said, for that price. She said, you'll have to. I said, I shan't. She said, well, I should tell I forgot what his name was, the foreman. She said, I shall tell him. I said, I don't care if you do. I said, I shan't come in this afternoon. And I didn't go in. When I went the next day, they were still there, and I thought, well, I'll have to get on with them. So she come down to me and she said, I had a word with Mr. I can't think of his name now. Anyhow, the old foreman. And we're going to give you just a few coppers more for doing them, you see. So I said, well, that's not a lot, is it? So she said, you're not British. I said, I'm as British as you are.
How much did you get paid then? Was it
Oh,
on price work?
Yes,
Piecework?
piecework. And if you earned £1, now, this was the way they used to pay you. That was put in all little tins, separate tins, and with your number on it, because you were all numbered. And Friday night, we had to go up to the bench where the old forewoman stood. So everybody knew how much money you'd got, because she was saying, well, this is yours and there's so-and-so in it. And if anybody earned £1, my giddy aunt, all those were on them.
How much was the average wage?
Oh, 18 bob.
And that would be how many hours would you have to work a
Well,
week?
8 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at night. We never left off till 6. We had an hour for dinner. And some of those girls, they walked from Harlington's in Stanwell Street down to their home on Hythe Quay and back again in that hour. Had the dinner and got back again.
So that was all piecework?
All piecework.
So if you didn't do any work, you didn't get money?
No. And if we wanted any extra, because I tried to get up a, what do you call it?
Union?
Yes.
Did you?
Yeah, I tried to get up a union.
Any luck or not?
No, girls didn't want to know.
Didn't
Only a few of them. And if we wanted more money, and we knew old Mr. Harlington was coming that particular day, we went down to where the office was and meet him. Blow me, mate, when we got down there, they pushed me in the front. They say, you ask him. That was always me who had to be pushed to the front to ask for some more money.
Did you ask or?
Yes, I'd ask him from chance whether he got it or not. He'd say he'd see about it. And then, of course, the girls, my friend, who I got friendly with, and we were friends for donkey's years till she died. She lived in St Mary's Road, and we were friends for years. We used to knock about together, you know. And she sat opposite me, and she did the vest, what you call a waistcoat. Well, she did the whole thing. She put the pockets in and put the backs on, you know, and she did the whole thing. She got better paid than I did for doing my work.
Did she?
Yes, because she could do them quicker, you see. She got over them quicker.
Well, that's where we're going to leave it. I hope you found that to be of interest.